Hey everybody, my name is Aaron and I quit my job to start a startup. It's called Hi-Hat and it's an app for live music superfans. That sounds cool, right? Superfans. I post new video blogs about my progress every Wednesday, so remember to subscribe. So last week I talked about, in general, what it was like to approach random strangers at concerts to get feedback about what I'm doing. Now this week, I'm going to talk about the specific feedback that I received from those random strangers. So the first thing is, random strangers will actually give negative feedback. There is something that you might hear when you read about or hear about research like this, where they say, well, people are afraid to tell you things that they think you don't want to hear. And I found that that's generally not true. But what they do, which I found very funny, is that they'll say, well, you probably didn't want to hear that after they say it, well, that's not what you wanted to hear. And then they'll apologize. Like, I'm sorry, I'm sure you didn't want to hear that. And I had to say, no, I do want to hear that. That's the whole point of being here. I'm here to collect feedback, and negative feedback is just as welcome as positive feedback. And it's probably more useful, right? So I thought that was pretty funny. Another thing that I noticed is that people that show up to a show before the doors open are a specific type of fan. I've sort of had this hunch for a while, but if you're going to show up to a show before the doors open because you want to be there for the whole night, you want to make a thing out of it. This is your Friday night or Saturday night or whatever. I think that's a different kind of experience they're looking for than the people who would show up just to see the headlining band or whatever their favorite band is and then leave. Or even just show up just in time to see that band and then maybe pay attention to the last band, maybe not. So you get the idea. And I know a lot of people who are big fans of music who go to shows, but I don't know that all of them are the type of person that would show up, that early for a show. So I managed to talk to those people, and that was great because of those people that sort of self-selected to be my target audience. They were pretty much on the same page with me as far as a lot of the feedback that they had about how they find out about shows and about the apps. But I'll get to that in a minute. Of the people that self-selected out of my target audience, there was a clear generational divide. And I thought it was really interesting. You read a lot about people over a certain age don't use apps, or they're not as comfortable using apps or whatever. And I actually found that to be true. I asked a few people who were older than probably 40, how did you find out about this show? Do you use apps, anything like that? And the answers were very much word of mouth, email lists, stuff like that. Nobody used apps, and they really didn't have any interest in it. So that brings me to my actual target audience that I talked to. And I'm really happy with the feedback that I got. A lot of it confirmed some ideas that I already had. So for instance, about some of the apps that I would consider my competition, people liked that they were comprehensive about giving them shows for bands that they were interested in. But they agreed with me that they did not like the fact that those apps send them a lot of information about bands they don't care about. And I understand this from a product manager point of view, to say, well, we're going to do music recommendations for people. And if you like these bands, then we'll calculate that you probably like these other bands. But they cast too wide a net, and it gets really obnoxious when you start getting notified about bands that you don't care about and that you never explicitly told these apps that you care about. One person that I talked to was particularly irritated that they got a push notification at 7:30 that morning that Styx had announced a new show. And they were like, I don't care about Styx. Why are you waking me up at 7:30 in the morning so I can hear about this? And I agree, that's really obnoxious. Now, another thing is that when I talked about the features in Hi-Hat, they thought that they were pretty cool. They agreed that meeting other fans who like the same bands seems cool. It can alleviate that feeling of, I'm not sure if I want to go to a show because I don't know anybody else who's going. And they actually thought the Get Directions / Hail a Ride feature that Hi-Hat has was really cool. And to me, that feature is just like kind of cool. because I don't mind tapping the address in another app and then going through the process of getting directions. But apparently saving those 2 steps was like really cool for these people. They're like, wow, that's awesome. I can just get an Uber straight to the show. And I was like, okay, great. I'm glad you like that. But what was really interesting to me is that the number one value proposition for the people that I talked to who were into the idea was just the pure utility of the app. So the social stuff was secondary, and they were really into, oh, I can look at information about the show, go straight to information about the venue, I can get to the venue easily. Like, just the basics, the basic informational stuff got them excited. And I would have never thought that. I thought that all the extra frilly stuff was what would get them excited. But it turns out the basics, most of which I already have, are what the really big music fans are into. And another thing that I found out is that people who are in the target audience don't necessarily know about the existing apps that already solve this problem, which is awesome to me. It shows that even though if you looked at the total install base of concert listing apps, it's probably fairly large, and there are, I think, 2 major apps that probably own 80 to 90% of that space. But there's a lot of people that aren't using any app for music discovery and concert discovery and whatever you want to call it. So that tells me that there's no clear winner, which tells me that nobody's got it right. And that's what I was hoping was true all along. And that's why I'm building Hi-Hat. Which leads me to my final point. I need to keep getting feedback. I need people to use the app, which means I need you to use the app. So if you've got an iOS device, which is an iPhone or an iPad, and you haven't downloaded Hi-Hat yet, please download Hi-Hat and give me some feedback. I need to know how you like it, what you don't like, if you use it. If you don't use it, why not? All right. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. This was a longer than usual episode, if you want to call it that, but useful information nonetheless. Remember that I post new video blogs every Wednesday. Please subscribe and like and comment and all that stuff. All right. I'll see you next week.